But what kills a lot of startups is they're building a product in search of a problem. So first off, let's get that right. Let's get product market fit, because you can't sprinkle good marketing on a bad product.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Tech Your Business podcast. Today, as usual, it's not a solo episode. Today is a guest episode. So we have a guest on the show to share their experience, their insights, and also how tech has helped them grow their business. Today, we have on the show Bryan Clayton. Bryan is a successful entrepreneur, and he's the co-founder of Greenpal, which is an online platform that connects homeowners with local lawn care professionals. So essentially, the interesting part of it is that Greenpal is entirely bootstrapped. That's the first part. The second part is that Greenpal has over 200,000 active users, and they complete thousands of transactions every day. Remember, I said bootstraps. So that's the second part. The third part is that the company has been profitable from the first year of operation. And as of 2021, it has been reported to be doing over $30 million a year in revenue, which is a remarkable achievement, and which is something I would like to ask Bryan a couple of questions on. So with your business, you can do the same, because at the end of the day, we see when a business is funded externally, a lot of the time it ends up losing its soul. It ends up losing the touch of the initial founders and all that. So today, Bryan would share with us how to market on a budget, how to grow on a budget, and also how to scale. So welcome to the show, Bryan.
Peter, thanks for having me on. It's great to be here. Great introduction.
Thank you. So can you tell us a bit about you and about Greenpal?
Yeah, so I am CEO and co-founder of Greenpal, which is a mobile app, like you mentioned, that is like the Uber for lawn mowing services in the United States. So if you're a homeowner and need to get yard maintenance services, rather than having to call around on Craigslist or Facebook or friends and family or something like that, you just download Greenpal, you pop your address in, you get 2 or 3 quotes back, and then you can hire a good lawn mowing service to take care of the chore for you. Greenpal is a 10-year overnight success in the United States. My 2 co-founders and I started the business about 10 years ago, and we've been grinding on it ever since. And little by little, we've grown it to around 300,000 people using the app to get their lawn mowed, and self-funded, like you mentioned. We've grown it to now over $30 million a year in revenue, just off of its own revenues. So it's been a long road. The first 3 or 4 years were kind of challenging, but we just stuck it out and celebrated little small wins along the way. And now we have the largest network of lawn care services in the United States that you can hire from your smartphone.
Nice. So you talked about challenges. What sort of challenges did you have at the start?
Yeah, a lot of things that I didn't foresee. So just a little bit of context. My first business was actually a lawn mowing business. I started mowing grass in high school as a way to make extra cash, and stuck with that lawn mowing business little by little. And over a 15-year period of time, built that up into a real company, around 150 employees. Ended up getting that business over 10 million a year in revenue, and then I sold it. So I sold it in 2013. It was acquired by a national company. And I took some time off and did some self-reflecting and realized that I wanted to take another swing at the plate. I wanted to start a new thing. And I thought, well, why couldn't I start a tech company? It looks so easy in the movie, The Social Network. Why can't I do that? And so it was kind of naivete. Naivete is an asset. And so I started this tech business thinking I knew everything there was to know about business, because I just built and sold a 150 employee company. I thought, well, this should be easy because it's tech. and I didn't know what I didn't know. The first thing, I had the idea right. I was basically solving my own problem. I saw the idea manifest itself every day running my landscaping company. So at least I was onto an idea where I was solving a problem that people needed to have solved. But what I didn't understand, the main challenge was that there's a big difference between running a business, starting a company, running a small business, versus inventing a brand new product from scratch that does not yet exist in the world. And I think a lot of times people forget that. And especially if you're in the tech, if you're in tech, if you're wanting to start a tech startup, most of the time you're inventing a new product, a new experience, a new way of doing things from scratch that doesn't exist. So people don't know about it. People don't know to use your product. People don't know how to use your product. And so that's a lot harder than your traditional brick and mortar service-based business, which are hard enough by themselves. The main thing that's the main thing that I didn't understand. Nobody told me about that. So, going through the challenges of getting our first 10 customers and get, that was hard. It took like a year to get 20 customers, and then,
Wow.
and then turning that into 100, and then turning that into 1,000, and then 10,000, and so on. These were challenging milestones, but I kind of just took it as a video game almost, just worked one level at a time and didn't worry about anything else until getting to the next milestone. And that's how we kind of tackled it.
Mm. So what did you do to get those first 10 customers you talked about?
Ooh, yeah. That was that was a tough level. That was level one. And so here we are. We spent 9 months building the first version of what we thought Greenpal should be. And we made every mistake you could make, because we built it off of our assumptions for what we thought the customer wanted, and guesses, and these things never turn out well. And so we built it, and it was a total failure. It was just dead on arrival. It didn't have the features it needed. It was clunky. It was buggy. But we knew we needed to get 10 or 20 or 30 people to use it, so then we could study their use of it, and try to learn from the user behavior, and try to learn from what they expected it to do, and what customers wished it would do, and where we were letting them down, and so on. And so we had no user acquisition strategy. It was kind of like, if you build it, they will not come. And that's it was like a goose egg. And so we started off with friends and family, begged friends and family to use it. That was like successful half the time. And then the other like 10 or 20 customers we got by literally passing out flyers. We went to vistaprint.com, shout out vistaprint.com, and got 200,000 or 300,000 door hangers made up. And we went all over Nashville, Tennessee, and just ground and pound and passed out flyers. Whenever somebody was at the door, we would talk to them, say, hey, listen, not selling you anything, but we're a startup here in Nashville, Tennessee. We just built this app. We're trying to figure out how to get it to work. If it's something you would like to try, here you go, try it out. So literally just hand-to-hand combat, try to get one customer at a time, until we ended up getting about 50 customers that way. And the important thing was not that like we were lighting it on fire with sales or making a bunch of money. We just needed people to use it, so then we could like talk to them at their kitchen table, at the Starbucks, at the Dunkin' Donuts, and ask them, what do you wish it would do? Where did it let you down? Where were you confused? Like literally over the shoulder, watch them use it. So you do usability tests. And that's how we learned the things we had to learn to get to the next level of the game, which was 1,000 people using it every week. And that took like 3 years to get from 50 to 50 or 100 to 1,000. It was a hard road. That's the challenge of building a marketplace. And there's a great book about this called The Cold Start Problem by Andrew Chin. He talks about this exact same thing. The cold start of going from like 0 to 1, getting your first, dozen, 50, 100 customers is one of the hardest levels of the game.
3 years to get the first. But if you look back now, looking at building from your own assumptions rather than looking at what the users would actually want and everything, if you could look back, what would you do differently, so you don't have to wait for 3 years to get the traction you had?
It's weird because if like Doc from Back to the Future rolled up in the DeLorean and said, jump in, we're going back 10 years and you got to do this all over again, what would I do differently? It's weird. I would raise money and I would go a lot quicker. I would build up a team, and because I know every single move to make. I've done it. I made the mistakes. So that's a weird thing. So the honest answer is I would raise money and build out a team really quickly and execute what I already know very quickly. That being said, with all of the knowledge I had 10 years ago and the experience, even though I had built and sold a business already, this was still very much my first business because it was a tech business, which is totally different. It's a totally different ball game. And so if you had given me $1 million or $5 million or even $10 million, I would have pissed it all away. And because I would have spent it on the wrong things, I just probably would have gave it right back to Facebook or Google on bad user acquisition. And the important thing is it would have prevented me from doing the hard work, which is those long nights, hitting up customers that don't care about your product, begging them to use it again, driving 15, 20, 30, 45 minutes to meet them at their kitchen table to talk to them about the product and give them a free mowing for doing it, meeting them at the Starbucks to watch them use it. I wouldn't have done any of that BS. And so those were where the key insights came from. Those were where the key learnings came from. So in a weird way, raising money would have prevented our success. And so that's a weird question. So that being said, what would I, with the knowledge I had then, what should I have done differently? I probably could have delegated a little quicker after I got the Pareto principle kind of figured out. Like the Pareto principle is that 80-20. They say that 80% of the knowledge comes from 20% of the acumen. And so after I figured out the 20%, I should have formed up a team around that one little thing and moved on. But I did a lot of it, and my co-founders and I did a lot of it ourselves for too long. So that's probably something I would do differently. However, a lot of times people try to delegate too soon. They delegate before they get to that 80-20 tipping point, and they delegate from a standpoint of abdication, which is I don't know how to do this, you handle it. And that always, every time I've ever tried to do something that way, it always blew up in my face. So it's a weird thing. And, you can't delegate too soon. You can't delegate too late. I think the mistake I made was I delegated too late, in those early years. That's why it took so long.
Yeah, you just mentioned the Pareto principle. So let's talk about that in relation with marketing. So for early stage startups, early stage businesses, looking at the marketing landscape these days, what's one or two marketing channels would you say they should focus on first, and why?
Yeah, so when you're starting a new product, you've got product market fit, which is, am I building something that people want? Are they paying? Do they want to pay for it? And is there any kind of pull from the market for it? What kills a lot of startups is they're building a product in search of a problem. And a lot of times, you're either in the business of selling vitamins or you're in the business of selling painkillers. And I think if you're in the business of selling painkillers, you're going to have a little bit of an easier ride. I think this at least has been my experience. And so first off, let's get that right. Let's get product market fit, because you can't sprinkle good marketing on a bad product. And so that's the first thing. And so at a small level, do we have 20 customers that are telling us that they like using it and that they want to keep using it? Until we can solve for that, there's no reason to try to bust open a channel. And so I think that's a lot thing that a lot of founders skip over. So once you get product market fit, and it's, how do you know it? You know it when you see it. It's hard to define. Then you got to focus on product channel fit. So not this product, what is the best channel for it? And the only way to know is to really experiment with all of them. And so some of them may just be some products may just be inherently viral, and the best channel for them is the loop of use within the product. And a great example would be like loom.com or zapier.com. Like, these are great tools that just through the use of them, they spread, and that's why they grew so quickly. There was no reason for loom.com, the team at Loom, which is a tool for sharing asynchronous video for training and things like that. There was no reason for Loom to go bust open TikTok ads or try to figure out Pinterest marketing or try to figure out Facebook ads, because they had a really good inherent kind of channel within the product for sharing it. So you have to figure out what the best channel fit for your product is. If you're selling a fashion brand, maybe it's something more visual like TikTok or Pinterest or Reels. If you're in like a home services space like me, or Google organic search is a great channel, because one thing we learned from our early customers, we would always ask them, how do you normally find a lawn mowing service? That was one of the things we would always ask at the coffee shop or at the kitchen counter in those early days, because we wanted to know where we could, meet them where they're at when they have this problem. Where can we be in their day-to-day life? And so when they have this problem, they can discover us. And the thing we always heard was like, well, after I ask friends and family for a recommendation and call those guys and they don't show up, and then after I, go to, Craigslist and call and get stood up there, I will just Google it out of desperation for a lawn care service nearby me. And so that's where we need to be. When you're desperate, that's where we come in. That's where we shine. And so we literally just started to peel the layers of the onion off of, okay, so what does it mean to compete in Google organic search, and what is that going to take? Shouldn't be too hard. And so what we learned there was like, damn, everything we just did around building the product, discovering the solution to the problems, designing the product, coding millions of lines of code, that was the easy part. The hard part is now marketing and distribution for this damn thing is going to be a lot harder than just building it. And so like we had to like pour our souls into SEO and carpeting the internet with our content and making sure our property was congruent with what Google is wanting. And that was a long road. That was another 2 or 3 years, but we started really small, ranking for keywords for smaller towns and cities for the services that our platform offered. And we just built a little foundation there and just started building it from there up and up. And now, we're one of like the top 2 or 3 marketers of landscaping services in the country, or maybe the world. And it took a while, it took 5 or 10 years, but now we got a little flywheel going.
Nice. I see you do a lot of customer research in making those decisions in marketing and co from the things you've said. So, and I also like one thing you said a lot of times you're building a product in search of a problem. And it reminds me of something I heard this morning on a podcast, that a lot of us build supply without any demand.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially in two-sided marketplaces like what Greenpal is.
Yeah,
it's difficult because there's a nuance there. You have to solve for both sides of the transaction at the same time, and yeah, to your point, you can build up tons of supply, but there's nobody wanting to interact with that supply. There's nobody wanting to hire them off the shelf. And a crude example of this is like a nightclub. The nightclub business, we've all been, I don't know if you've ever been to a nightclub where it's just a bunch of dudes, and like the dudes are the easier part of the marketplace, side of the marketplace to get to the club. And so the harder is the female side. And so in our world, in my little world, the supply side is the dudes, and the demand side is the consumers, the women. And so it's like dating apps are like this too. They're disproportionate. There's 10 times the number of men as there are women on any given dating app. And so, but a lot of marketplace dynamics shake out this way. And to your original point, like you built up a ton of supply. You built up a dating app with a bunch of straight men, heterosexual men, and there's no women. That's not a business. And it's so funny. The Andrew Chan's book, The Cold Start Problem, talks about Tinder and how they got over that, and how they they put in the product mechanics to try to solve that problem because it exists. And so yeah, if you build up a bunch of supply with no demand, you've wasted everybody's time.
Makes a lot of sense. So you talked about printing on Vista Print, handing out flyers, things like that. Because these days, a lot of people, when they talk about marketing, they don't go back to those basic things, flyers and all that. See, everybody wants to do online ads and things like that. So how effective are those strategies now?
Yeah, I'm not advocating that people intentionally try to do things inefficiently and intentionally do crappy work like handing out flyers. But I think a lot of new founders want to skip over any hard work. Any crappy work. They want to skip over. They want to fly over that part and land into like the super scaled, robust campaign that's touching thousands of people. And the fact of the matter is you can't. So for us, passing out flyers at that stage of the game was what we had to do to jumpstart something. If we had gone straight to a Google campaign, first off, to rank in Google search takes 6 months to a year. So we couldn't wait that long. We needed customers to use this crappy app that we had built, because Greenpal was crappy back then. We needed them to use it tomorrow. And so the quickest way from like, I have no customers to I need 20 customers at that point was to go pass out flyers. Maybe if you've got like a somebody that's already super experienced with a channel and with Facebook or with Google AdWords or something like that, maybe leverage that. But we didn't have the time that it took to ramp up to learn that channel, because it takes you 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, maybe a year to get good at running a Google AdWords campaign, to get good at running a Facebook campaign. We couldn't wait that long. We needed user feedback like Monday, and the quickest thing we could do was to literally like get in the car and pass out some door hangers and eat a kind bar and get rolling. And so I don't advocate that you, as a new founder, you go search out those things that are just crappy to do just because you want to wear it as a badge of honor. No, but you do need to like do that work that sucks, and do the ground and pound for a while until you figure out what the hell it is you're doing, because you don't know. There's no way to scale what you don't know, and so that's, you're looking for those insights. And it's those conversations that I had with somebody on their front doorstep, because when I was passing out the flyers, if somebody was there, sometimes people would come out and like tell me, what the hell, what are you doing on my property? Get out of here. And I'll say, hey, listen, no, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I promise. I'm a startup founder here in town, and I'm building this app. And would you use something like this? Most of the time they would tell me to piss off, but they say, yeah, actually, yeah, because I've called 5 lawn guys in the last month, and they all stand me up, and I would use something like that. And that sounds pretty cool. And so those interactions with actual customers, people, gave me insights. And so it's a weird thing. I'm not sitting here saying, yeah, go pass out flyers, it's great. I'm saying do the hard work is what I'm saying.
True. All right. So let's leave flyers now. So when you look at the marketing tactics you've used over the years, what creative marketing tactics have you leveraged that have provided the biggest, the Pareto thing, little effort and a lot of results?
Yeah. Every time I try to so first off, I think that every founder, every new business, every new startup, it needs to be like really good at one channel. I think that if you're going to have takeoff, you're going to be really good at one channel, and you're going to throw all of the team's effort, because if you're good at one channel, it's not the marketing department. It's not the marketing person. It's not the marketing guy or gal. It's not like your part-time marketing efforts. It's like the whole team, everything is oriented around winning at that channel. And so for us, like to compete in Google organic search, you know, we have to have content writers write great content about lawn care services. We have to have developers be able to package that up and put it on a landing page and make it load fast. And we have to have people that know SEO, that know how to make all these things link together and put them in an order in which that Google likes. We have to have product people that have to understand, okay, well, when somebody comes to that landing page, this is what they're looking for. This is how they convert. We have to have visual designers make it all beautiful and pretty, because as a human being, you know if something's legit or not in about a half second based on its visual design. We have to have product managers pull it all together. Me as a CEO, make it important and orient the team in that direction. So it's like everybody, like literally, it's everybody in the company is oriented around in one way, shape, or form. How do we win at SEO? I think it would be the same if we were trying to like dominate, Instagram Reels or Facebook paid ads or Google paid ads or TV or print or radio or whatever. Like, I think it's like a full contact sport for the entire team. So my point is like every time I've disobeyed that and tried to be good at another channel, it's like always robbed from the main channel, because we're like somewhere in the messy middle of company building. We're not a startup anymore. We're doing 8 figures in revenue, but we're not an Uber or an Airbnb or an Instacart or a DoorDash, or we're certainly not in that league. So we're somewhere in the middle. And so we still have to like focus on what we're the best in the world at and double down on that. And every time we try to like deviate from that and do something else, it always comes at the expense at the main thing. So I think like keep, double down on what's already working, figure out how to be best at that channel, how to win at that channel, and not like try to be good at 3 things, because you're just not. You look at the big guys and say, well, look at Airbnb. They got TV and print, and they're really good at SEO. They do paid ads. They do Instagram ads. I think I saw an ad for them on my Twitter feed and my Instagram feed. They've got a referral engine. They've got all. Well, dude, that's now a publicly traded 60, I think $80 billion company. That ain't you. You're 3 guys in a garage. You need to like be really good at one thing. So always remind yourself that to double down on what's working and just be the best in market at that one channel, and not worry about anything else.
I love that a lot, because I think you really have gotten this thing of focusing on just one thing, on the thing you're best of, and forgetting the rest. So talking about focus too, when you look at your marketing and co efforts, what metrics or KPIs do you recommend the business owner should track closely to optimize their efforts and make sure they are doing the right thing?
Yeah, for me, I've always been an advocate of okay, let's focus on first. Let's build from the bottom up with any of these metrics in the funnel. So let's always look at retention first, because if we can't, if we have a leaky bucket at the bottom of the bucket, and we can't keep these people that we're bringing in, then what is the point of any of this? It's like it'll be like pouring gas on wet leaves and trying to get a fire going. It won't work. And so that's the first place we'll always start is what are customers saying? Let's call up the last 10 customers who don't use the product anymore, and let's ask them why they don't. And or let's email them if they won't answer the phone anymore. And let's start there. So let's fix that. Let's fix everything with why we're pissing people off. Why, and we're not going to make everybody happy, but if there's 10 reasons, if there's 100 reasons why people don't use us, let's fix the things that occur the most, and then we have a nice solid foundation to then start building up, and then build up from there. It's like, okay, well, the people that come in and we give them pricing, why aren't they converting? Well, let's call up 10 or 12 of those, and let's do some experiments around those, and let's figure out why they're not converting, and why aren't they activating, and what we're doing. Maybe we're not communicating clear enough. Clarity it trumps persuasion. clarity is the best way to move the needle on any kind of marketing effort. And a lot of times as a founder, there's this weird gap that occurs between founder logic and customer logic, and you're both looking at the same problem from two different kind of paradigms. And so you're no longer being clear with your copy. You're no longer being clear with how you present your offer. And so the only way to fix that is to, again, talk to customers. So let's fix our clarity issues with our copy and our presentation and our UI. So let's build up from there. And then once we have like really, we feel like we've exhausted everything we can do on retention and activation, let's move up the funnel and let's talk about acquisition. Okay, how can we get more people to the front door? Because we've already fixed all of these other things. And we feel really good about that. We really feel like we have the best product in the market. And we really feel like people should do business with us versus anybody else. Now let's look at the acquisition. Let's get this thing in the hands of more people to try it. And yes, this is a weird, like, old school thing, but like a lot of times value proposition and what the hell it is you're selling and why it matters is the biggest thing you can do at the acquisition step. Value proposition is, if I'm your ideal prospect, meaning I'm your ideal customer. It's like you can't be all things to all people, and you're not going to sell like a product that's going to like satisfy 100% of people. But there's your ideal prospect. I'm your ideal prospect. So if I'm your ideal prospect, why am I going to do business with you versus anybody else? And the answer to that question always starts with because this is the quickest, fastest, cheapest way to get this done, even if X, Y, and Z. Like what is that value proposition? And really study that and spend a month on it. Because if you can get that right, that'll make the acquisition step easier, because you're not converting 99% of the people that come to your landing page anyway. So really like tune that value proposition and communicating it clearly is the biggest like lever you can pull in any business at that step of the game.
All right. So earlier you talked about one of the mistakes you made, delegating too late. So for a younger business owner, when should they know that they're ready to delegate?
Yeah, if you lay out what you're doing in a week, and it's weird because we as founders, we get dominated by the things that are urgent but not important. And so it's like it's just stacks of this stuff, and it's stuff that's urgent but not important. The stuff that's important but not urgent might be calling up 10 customers, could be studying, doing some usability tests, studying what the product design is looking like today, signing up for the product yourself and like really trying to figure out where you're confusing people. It could be like the strategic landscape. It could be, what the next 2 or 3 steps of the game are in terms of like what channel you're trying to dominate in. That's stuff that's important, but it's not urgent. And so you never do it. You never do it. You're always stuck in this step of the game of like urgent but not important. And so it's like it's customer support, it's emails, it's like getting stuff shipped out, it's getting developers lined up on what they're working on. It's all of these things just making the trains run on time. And if you start seeing like, oh man, like 20-30% of my time is dominated by this one like repetitive thing, then it's time to make a really clean standard operating procedure about what that is, and then getting somebody who can just focus just on that. And these days you can hire somebody fractionally. You may not be ready for a full-time employee. Maybe you're only doing $100K a year in sales or something, and you can't bring on somebody full-time, but you can bring on somebody fractionally, and it could be a fractional CFO, a fractional marketing person. It could be just a VA to help you with repetitive tasks. The point is you got to do the really hard work of making the system that they can follow to get it done how you want it done. And that's a lot harder than you think. And it's a lot harder than just doing it yourself for a little while. And that's why a lot of people don't do it, and they don't do it well, because at the end of the day, it is harder to build the system that moves rocks than just moving the rocks yourself.
Yeah.
And so just being honest with yourself about that and saying, okay, I'm going to come in on a Saturday or Sunday, and I'm literally going to step by step, like McDonald's eyes, this step piece of my business that anybody can do it. Like the beautiful thing about McDonald's, and I think it might have even been like a mantra of Ray Kroc, it's like he said, my business produces great results with mediocre people. And that was the beautiful thing about McDonald's. The system was so good that you could just put in average people with extremely high turnover, and still, whether it's in any corner of the world, produce a hamburger that's pretty decent and consistent. And like they were doing that in 1960, and I mean that's incredible. So like McDonald's is here, you're here. You got to like close the gap between you and a McDonald's type of system. You got to take a step towards that, and it's really hard. It's hard creating systems and processes. You're always going to be tuning them. You're always going to making them better and better and better. It's not a static thing, but get started, and then you'll learn what works. You'll learn how to hire for what you're looking for in terms of who to hire for these positions, and start small and set the bar really low. And one cool thing about like delegating today is that you can delegate to pretty much anybody in the world for pretty much anything in the digitally. And Chat GPT is closing the gap between a worker in the Philippines, Bangladesh, India, wherever, and a worker in Austin, Texas, or in Spain or something. Like ChatGPT is leveling the playing field for the pool of people in which you could hire for a type of task. Not everything, but a lot of repetitive stuff you're probably doing that's eating up your time, that's causing you to get stuck in the things that are urgent but not important. So you can then move into the box, the quadrant of things that are important but not urgent.
Yeah. When you mentioned planning on Sundays, I smile, because that's actually what I do on Sundays. I work all week, normal work. Then on Sundays, I usually try to plan out my week, plan out the months and all that. And I found out it works really well, because then you're not doing it. Because I figured out that when you're working, you really don't have time, or you can't really, we are built to do one thing at a time. So you end up not having that capacity to strategize or do anything else. Right. You're just producing. So that's why I had to set one day apart, and I smiled seeing that it's not it's a common thing at the end of the day. So when you talk about systems and processes, a lot of people get scared. They sound intimidating, like you said. They're hard, like you said. So what's a non-threatening way a business owner can get started implementing these systems and processes in their business?
Yeah, start small and set the barrier to success, the bar of success low. A lot of times, it's just getting some momentum going in the right direction. And there's a great quote that I like by Paul Graham, and he says in a startup and in a small business, you got to remind yourself, action produces information, and that's really all you're after. And so I like that quote, because action, this is like three words: action produces information, and that's all you care about. And so the action is, I'm going to try to hire somebody to help me with customer support, or I'm going to try to hire somebody to help me with content creation, or try to hire somebody to help me with link building or whatever. And so I'm going to take my best crack at it. I'm going to create this is the 10 things I need you to do, and I'm going to hire somebody to do it. And then what's going to happen is that's going to produce information. It's like the person's going to do it, and it's not going to work because of X, Y, and Z. Okay, all right, well, let's start it all over again. Okay, I got that wrong because of this. All right, so now I'm gonna tweak this, and I'm gonna do it again. All right, and then you just keep doing that over and over and over again until you've got somebody who's handling all of the PR outreach for your business. For example, like every business should be doing as much PR as they can. So like, let's say you want to hire a VA who's going to help you for 10 hours a week, find journalists who are going to write about your business. And you've been doing it on Saturday mornings, but now you've created a step-by-step process. So just set the bar low for information. I just want to figure out, I'm looking at this as an experiment. I just want to figure out what works, what doesn't, and just run that loop over and over and over again. You're not going to get it right the first time out of the first time, for sure. You're going to do it wrong about 20 times, and then you're going to finally get somebody good who's going to be able to follow. And the problem, and the thing is, the 19 people you hired, it's not like they're not good. It's probably that your process sucked and they didn't really understand it. You weren't clear about a lot of things, and that's why it didn't work. And so if you can just keep running the process over and over again, there's some really good books about this. The Checklist Manifesto is a really good book. In that book, just, why don't planes crash all the time? And it's because now the damn pilot, no matter how many hours he's logged, is working a checklist, and surgeons still, run a checklist so they don't sew up a scalpel inside your body, and it's still to this day, the world runs on checklists. And so your business should too. And so that's a good book. The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. That's really all that book is about, is delegation, and in the sense of creating standard operating procedures for people to run. And it's not like you're gonna be able to delegate everything in your business in 6 months. No, you just need to pick one simple thing that's eating up a lot of your time. And now in 2023, you can fractionally offload these things so people can help you and free up the things so you can focus on the high leverage activities and not get bogged down by the low leverage activities. Naval Ravikant said that it's like leverage is the thing we're all after. Like leverage is the most important thing. It's not like talent or skill or money or it's leverage. And if you can create that leverage by delegating to people who can focus on tasks and do them better than you can, then you can create the leverage to do high leverage things. And it's hard. That's the thing. Everybody's said a million times what I've just said, but what they won't tell you is, and I'm going to tell you, is that it is hard. You're going to get it wrong a lot of times, and it's a lot harder to create the system for somebody else to do versus you just doing it yourself. And so that's why a lot of times people will just go back and just do it themselves.
Do it, exactly.
Just know it's hard and know it's going to take time, but don't give up on it.
True. You've given a lot of book recommendations: Checklist Manifesto, The Cold Start Problem, The 4-Hour Work Week. So do you set time aside to read? How do you learn? Because I know learning is very important in our growth at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's like I hate reading. I'm like, the first book I ever read was when I was like 30 years old, when I was starting this company. So that's one of the cool things about starting a business is that it's gonna force you to level up. It's gonna force you to be better. It's gonna force you to do things you never would have done in a million years. I would never go to this conference and hang out with these people. But the business is forcing. Like I went to an SEO conference, a few months ago, and learned so much and met so many cool people and got a great freelancer to help me with some things. But I mean, it was just a bunch of dorks and nerds. I mean, I never would hang out with these people, but the business is forcing me to do the things that I would never in a million years do, so I can level up and evolve and become a better founder and a better person. True. And part of that is reading. And like I told you, I never read a book until I was 30. And so now I'm 43. And so in that 13-year period of time, I don't know, man, I've read several hundred. And it, because the business is forcing me to, it's like, you better learn these things or else you're never going to make it. And so that's one of the cool things about it. And I think every founder, you're doing three things at once. You're working in the business. You're making sure the damn thing runs and making sure customers are getting served. You're working on the business. You're trying to build systems and processes. And then the third thing is you're working on yourself. and you have to learn, you have to invest in yourself. You got to level up because the business is going to reach a choke point of your skills and your acumen. And if you don't level that up, like forecasting like 6 months, a year, 2 years ahead of your business, it's going to reach that choke point where the business is now stalled because you as the founder are inadequate. You haven't read the books, you haven't watched the stuff on YouTube, you haven't listened to the podcast. And that's how I experienced it. And a lot of times what I'm reading and learning is like block and tackling for whatever sets of challenges I'm facing in the business at that given time. Like in the early days, I stumbled upon the lesson that great copywriting is a huge fulcrum in any business. Like words on the screen matter, words in the email matter, words in your customer support matter. And so like for 6 months, I read every book I could read on copywriting. I took every online course I could read on copywriting. And if I became like a D student at copywriting, which is better than an F. And so I knew just enough about copywriting to like write some pretty good copy and then understand what a good copywriter versus a bad copywriter looks like. So I could hire the right one. And so I think as the founder, you're always going to have to invest in yourself. You're always going to have to be learning and evolving and growing, because the minute you stop is the minute your business is going to stall out.
That's really true. And your answer just explains why you've kept growing. So because they say the moment you stop to learn, you don't stop, you don't stay at a point, no, but you start going back.
That's right. That's exactly right. And it's like George Patton said, if you're not taking ground, you're losing ground. And that's how business and life is. And if you're just going to go work a normal job somewhere, a lot of this stuff doesn't matter, but business is cutthroat, man. And the minute you stop growing, you start decaying. And somebody told me once that, like, as a founder, you mentioned earlier Sundays, it really is 7 days a week for a very long time. and your living room should be a classroom. Your car should be a mobile classroom. Somebody might come up to you and say, "Hey, have you seen this new series on Netflix?" You don't know what the hell they're talking about, because you're watching a bunch of stuff on YouTube University. I watched a whole conference the other day on YouTube that cost like $10,000 to go to, for free. It's amazing. I watched all the keynotes. I watched all the presentations. I watched this dude give a talk, who was a marketer at Uber. He deployed like $3 billion in capital to help Uber gain market share. And he gave a whole talk about how he did it. And the video had 11 views. So what a crazy time to be alive, where you can learn these types of things for free, anytime, anywhere. I mean, dude, when I was building my first business, we had cassette tapes that you had to buy for $1,000. It's so much, in many ways, it's so much easier than it's ever been. Honestly,
when you mentioned this 7 days a week thing, I can really relate, because I always tell people, who say, they're at work, they have their 9 to 5, they're working so hard and they want to start a business because they want to get more time for family and all that. And I say, if you want more time, you're making the biggest mistake, because starting your own business, you'll be doing the job of 3 or 4 people at the start.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. It's like people are like, "Man, I wanna like do what you do, and I hate my job, and I work so hard for such little money, and like I want to do what you do." And I have to tell them, like, look, if you go this route, you're going to be working twice as hard for half the money for about 5 to 10 years. So let that be known that there's this ramp up period. And the thing is, a lot of people don't make it over onto the other side, because they apply their job mindset to a business, and the job mindset is just be busy, look busy, act busy, and they apply that to their business, and they get stuck in this kind of fake work paradigm where activity is not success, and so you're not, just because you are working hard and you're doing the startup thing, and you're working 6-7 days a week or whatever, and you're not still not making progress, and they waste 5 years of their life. I've seen a lot of that. It's not guaranteed that you're going to build a successful business just because you work really hard. You have to work smart along the way too.
True. Yeah. So earlier you mentioned ChatGPT. So what are your thoughts on AI and business?
It's causes me anxiety at times because it's just incredible to imagine what's going to happen in the next 2 or 3 or 4 years. I really think it's 1992 all over again, and in 1992 or 3, it wasn't really clear what the internet was and what it was going to do. It was neat and it was cool. You could get onto a website and see stuff, and for the first time, and but it wasn't clear how it was going to change everything. And it took about 10 years. I think we're in that same moment with AI, and it's not real. It's neat. You got this box that'll tell you anything. But it's not real clear how it's going to change everything. And I don't think it's going to take 10 years this time. I think it's going to take, 2, 3, 4, or 5 at the most. And so what do I see happening? I see a lot of surplus elites is what I would call them. People that are working white collar jobs that don't have any kind of specific skill, that are doing a lot of repetitive things. I see a lot of that going away. I see a lot of reversion back to real stuff. Like, for example, I know a girl who's a friend of mine who quit her job as an HR exec. She went to school, she's got a bunch of student loan debt, went to school, got a job in HR, was making like 50K or 60K. She now cleans houses for Airbnb owners, and has got it's carved out a niche to like turn around Airbnbs over really quick, and does some little extra things around that, kind of what that need is in the market. Makes 150 grand a year. Wow. She makes 3 times what she made at her job, and has since paid off all her student loan debt. And really, she's not the cheapest in the market. She's carved out a niche for her client, but she did it smart. And within a year, and now she's got 2 or 3 employees, and she clears 150K and could build a business that'll do $1 million a year in revenue. And so I see a lot of reversion back to that kind of stuff. Plumbers, electricians, painters, home cleaners, lawn care guys like Greenpal. maybe I'm self-serving in my thinking and wishful, but I see a lot of reversion to real stuff, and a lot of this kind of unnecessary stuff getting abstracted away because the AI can do it better, or the person in Bangladesh can do it better, can literally do it better with an AI terminal than the person sitting in Austin, Texas can. That's happening. That's going to happen, and be prepared. Be prepared in your career and in your startup.
It's true. So you just talked about working remotely. So what are your thoughts on remote work? And does your team work remotely or in the office?
For me, I have mixed feelings on it because I started Greenpal, and the way I got from no customers to 10,000 customers, now Greenpal's got 300,000 customers, but the way I got from 0 to 10,000 was locking myself and my 2 co-founders in a windowless office for 6 years. And we did not leave until we figured it out, only to go to sleep and to go eat. And we literally, I'm being a little facetious, but that's kind of how it was. And if you asked either of them, they'll be like, yeah, no, that sucked. And that's how it was. But we were together. We were in the trenches. We were figuring stuff out. We were on the whiteboards together. Then we got Greenpal going, and Greenpal is not like conquering the world or anything, but it's making money, and we've got now a really good team. We've got 40 something people, and they're all over the world. So we're fully distributed. So now we're fully remote, and everybody can work from anywhere. I do a lot of traveling as part of my personal lifestyle. And so now my personal kind of desire is to be remote, to not have to sit in a commute. And it works for us now. I don't think it would have worked going from 0 to 1. I don't see a time where we would have figured out the problems we would have figured out had we not been in a windowless office together for 6 years. And so I have mixed thoughts on it. You know, why I saw a meme the other day. Somebody took a picture of like this beautiful office building. It was like so tall and like had this blue glass, and it was just like the sun was beaming off it. And the upper right hand corner was this beautifully like placed sign, Zoom. It's like, why does Zoom have offices? You
Such
know,
a big office.
Yeah. Well, the person's like, I don't understand why Zoom has offices. And it's like, well, because Zoom made a magical product that just made like conferencing so easy. And guess what? They probably couldn't have built it over Zoom. They probably couldn't have built it. And then, ask yourself, do you think the iPhone could have been built over Zoom? Do you think SpaceX could have, built their rockets over Zoom? I don't think so. So I think it depends on what level of the game you're playing, if you're in the NFL, I think you're going to have to be in person. If you're trying to just kind of like tinker around the edges, maybe you can do it fully remote starting out. Maybe you start off in person and then you go fully remote later, like we have at Greenpal. But there's examples of people who have built, founders who have built really big successful companies. I think Zapier.com is an example. They've been remote day one to where they are now. So like everything, it depends, but I do have mixed emotions on it. And those are my thoughts on it.
Nice. So what tech tools do you think for you make the biggest difference in running your business?
So for me, when it comes to tools, I think you can get bright, shiny object syndrome with tools, and then you try to over-toolify things. And it's like there's a new tool for everything every week, and then you try to like stop what you're doing and throw a new tool in there, and it gets in the way. I've been guilty of this. So for me, the tools are great, but like for me, less is more. I try to keep it simple. If it's working, don't fix it. But man, I saw the other day that the nukes in Russia literally run on a system off of not a 5-inch floppy disk, but the 10-inch floppy disk. So before the 5, so you had the 3.5 plastic disk, but then before that in the 80s, you had a 5-inch that was like revolutionary. But then for a while, there was like a 10-inch, the size almost of a record, and you would put this thing in. So a lot of the nuclear silos in Russia still run off of you put this big disk in there to get them to activate. And there's concerns that this stuff could be antiquated. But, it works, and they haven't had an accident. They haven't fired off a nuke, thank God, in 70 years. And so it's just like, that's the extreme. But the other extreme is like, we all know this person who's trying to throw a new tool in because there's something, and it's like, dude, like, no, Google Sheets works. I don't need another tool in this workflow. And I think with AI, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of new tools coming out there, basically just AI wrappers. And it's like, why do I need this? I could just do this in ChatGPT. And why do I need this new tool to write text when I could just literally do the same thing in ChatGPT for free? And so be wary of that. For me, I keep it simple, man. I use the hell out of Trello. I use the hell out of a product. I'm just looking at my tabs that are open right now. I use the hell out of a product called hubstaff.com, which is great for tracking people that work for me and screen sharing and stuff. ChatGPT is open all the time. I've got about a half dozen SEO tools that I use, like Ahrefs and SEMrush. I use the hell out of Upwork. That's a great platform. And so, yeah, I think be wary of too much tools, but don't be the floppy disk. It's somewhere in the middle, I think.
Yeah. So, what would you like to share with our listeners? Our listeners are mostly business owners, and we've had a good discussion so far. So in case there's anything I've missed, what would you like to share with our listeners on how they can grow or scale for high impact for their business?
I think that, we've talked a lot about this, that I think in the early days, intensity can be the strategy. It's just like, I would rather have a mediocre plan. And this is a quote, I think another George Patton quote is like, I would rather have a mediocre battle plan executed vigorously than the perfect plan, never executed or moderately executed. And so it's like, we all know this, that execution is everything. And that's why that Paul Graham quote is so important, that action produces information. Because the important part of that quote is if you listen to it, it gives you a bias towards action. It reduces the bar for action. And that's where everything happens. And so intensity is the strategy. Action produces information. If you can remind yourself of those two things and just vigorously go through this loop of figuring out what works and what doesn't. And at the center of that loop, a lot of times is your customer, talking to your customers, figuring out what they're pissed off about, and then fixing them. Doing that over and over again for 5 years, you'll wind up somewhere with some level of success. I guarantee that. It's really hard. It's not fun at a lot of times, but I promise it's worth it.
All right. So how can listeners reach you in case they want to learn more about you, or they want to work with you, or they want to use Greenpal or anything else?
Yeah. If you're in the US, we're not outside of the US yet, but we will be. We'll be in UK and Australia soon. But and you're in the United States, just go to greenpal.com, sign up there. Anybody wants to hit me up, hang out the most on Instagram, actually. So you can hit me up there, Bryan M. Clayton, and I'll respond to you there.
All right. So we'll link that in the show notes. So thank you for coming on the show today. And for the listeners, thank you for being with us for so long. And I hope you've learned a lot of things, because I've taken a lot of notes. So I hope you're taking a lot of notes too. If you haven't, go back to the beginning and listen through again. So thank you, listeners, for being on this episode of the Tech Your Business podcast. Until next week, when we are back with another episode, keep taking your business, and bye for now.